I have a lot of content here on YouTube. And so instead of sitting somewhere recording and doing a bunch of stuff, I thought, why don't I just record them here live? And you can catch them and replay them if you wish, just in case it ends up being really good or not. I think one of the things that hurts my heart the most when it comes to relationships is how little people truly understand about what it takes for them to be good. We watch a lot of people out there and they all look amazing, don't they? I don't know, they're really beautiful and they've got all this money and they drive beautiful cars and they have expensive bags and shoes and homes and, you know, and it's so easy to be seduced by a lot of that stuff. And then we think, well, maybe when we're in a relationship, maybe someday, it's so easy to get confused in what we really want in life, though, isn't it? Because I don't know about you, I too get pulled in. But if you're going to have a healthy relationship, I'll tell you right now, all of those things that I just mentioned have zero, zilch to do with it. If you're like me, you didn't get relationship advice growing up. And no, my parents were amazing. They taught me a really solid work ethic. They taught me the value of education and working hard and being kind to humans and all of that stuff. But we never talked about relationships. Now, they did it right. They must have, because they were 48 years married by the time my mother passed away suddenly of an aneurysm. But they were pretty good years. There were some years that I kind of wonder, but they did it well. I have a feeling that even if they didn't tell us, they sure showed us. And so the few things that I did pick up that were awesome about my parents is they were committed to doing some things together. Church, Catholics, they were very religious. I'm from the Philippines. That's where I was born, and that's where they were born. And so they have very strong, solid values. Going to church was very, very important to them, and praying together was very important to them. And then on the social side, they went to a lot of dances and gatherings and trips. And so I did get that it's important for couples to have something in common that isn't just the kids and the bills and the worries. What I didn't pick up from them, though, which sort of breaks my heart a little bit, is what I now know as a relationship expert is that deep, intimate bond. I'm not saying it wasn't there, but it wasn't obvious. And so, and I think we can really misread that and think it's not there because we don't really see it. But now that I think about it, it was really in the things that they did for each other. I would have liked to have seen more of it, but that's kind of getting me to the point that I want to talk about, is this closeness and this intimacy. They must have done it. I don't know how. I didn't really get a good look at that. But what I do know now is you can't have a good relationship without letting somebody in. What does letting in mean? That means sometimes you got to listen to them and listen very well before you jump in to defend yourself and to set them straight on what they're doing wrong. And sometimes you just got to zip it long enough to let them really flow with what they're trying to tell you. Then there's the opposite of that, where sometimes the worst thing in the world you can do in your relationship is to zip it. In fact, I just did a video on that, and it's his biggest mistakes, his biggest regrets, because oh man, that man really broke my heart when I saw him some 10 years ago. But so if there's anything you learn, and you got to be good at both. You got to know when to shut up, but you got to also know when it's time to speak up and fight for yourself. And I don't mean fight like, yelling match, any of that kind of thing. But it just means like holding your ground when it's really, really important to you. And not backing down just because there's a lot of pressure. And not giving in to guilt because people are guilting you. Maybe it's his family or their extended family or their friends or their jobs, whatever it is. Sometimes the best thing you can do to yourself is the best thing you can do for your relationship is to really know yourself. I remember I used to watch this show and it was called NYPD Blue. It was on in the 80s, I think, or in the 90s. And there was this guy, Sipowicz, and he used to say, if I don't tell you this right now, I'm going to have a big, massive headache. So here it is. Or he would also say the same thing. Tonight, I'm going to have a big ass, massive headache because I didn't beat that guy up that I really, really wanted to. And so sometimes we have to understand the consequences of not speaking up. And that's hard because who of us loves conflict? No. Who of us wants peace? Yeah, sign me up. Here's the thing, okay? Anybody that I've sat down with and said, oh, so why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you tell her how you really felt? Why didn't you say, oh my God, woman, tone it down. Oh my God, you talk so freaking much. Or, why don't you just really say what you want to say? This is the common answer. I don't want to get them angry. Well, what'll happen if they get angry? They might yell. Okay, then maybe you forgive them for yelling, but then get really stressful. Okay, so what? What's the worst possible scenario? Well, that they'll walk out on me and never come back. That they'll leave me. Okay, friend, if you're with someone who will leave you because you speak up and upset them once in a while, you're with the wrong person. You're with the wrong person if you're with someone who you really feel like you have to filter yourself and you have to watch everything you say so as not to offend, upset, trigger anything. That's not healthy. That is not healthy. That is not healthy. If you think that your partner only wants a certain side of you, only parts of you that they whatever, maybe it's the outside you or the beautiful silent you or the strong fierce protector you or whatever it is. If you think that that's all I want from you, you're sadly mistaken because we don't get involved. We don't let our hearts open wide up for somebody else to stomp on it to be with someone for superficial stuff. Those who have been in it for the superficial, man, that's a hard word to say, superficial stuff, those are the relationships that don't last. And so what I'm saying is you got to learn to upset your partner once in a while. As long as you're not doing it for fun, you're not doing it for sport, and you're not doing it to just set them off. You have to be yourself. Reversely, you gotta be okay for them to upset you. And for them, you gotta be okay for your partner to say, right now you're a bit much. Give me a few minutes and whatever. Give me a day, give me a couple hours. Like I need some space, whatever it is. Okay. You gotta be okay with whatever it is your partner tells you. What in one of the videos I just did, it's like, forgive the delivery. You can forgive the delivery because people worry too friggin' much about delivering a message perfectly to the point that they don't bother saying it at all. And then they go to bed and they're mad. And then they collect that. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like this. I collect my wounds. I don't collect them, but all of us are like this. We have this thing in our head where we tend to collect how many people have hurt us and in what way. Our memory is spectacular when it comes to how we've been hurt before. And the last thing we need is to be having those building blocks get in the way of our own relationship. And thank you for all the hearts, by the way. Hello, Alexa. Glad to have you here. Hi, you're so pretty. Oh, and you are sweet. I'm glad you're here. Anybody else who's here, if you have any questions, feel free to post them. You are such a good therapist. I'm serious. Oh, thank you. I was a clinical therapist. I was a couples therapist for 35 years. I loved doing it until I didn't anymore. And I'll tell you right now, part of the frustration I had is when you're a therapist, when you're a licensed therapist and you have people who are following, you have a licensing board. There's a college that looks after everything you say. I could not even talk this freely. I couldn't even just kind of come out and say, what is so anyway, what basically I wanted to just kind of get more in front of people where I could just be completely myself and say what I know people really need to hear. And one of that is let your guard down. Don't be a weakling. Keep your chin up. Say what's on your mind. I can't tell you how critical this is. I had a friend who pushed me into whatever it is. You're upset. There's something going. I'm fine. Elena, what is going on? I know you're upset. I don't know. What I'm upset is your husband, your marriage, is your kids. I don't know. I don't know why I'm upset. And so I said, okay, whatever it is, the next opportunity I get, I'm just going to speak up. Well, it happened one Saturday morning. I'm sitting there having my coffee, and my husband comes down, and he's making his coffee, and he looks at me. And I start to cry. I'm emotional anyway. But anyway, hello, Russell. Glad to have you here. And then it just started to come out. I said, I'm unhappy in this house. It's a beautiful house. It's a 2-story home. I subscribe. Please, may you make more lives so we can listen to more stories. Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, sure. I got a shit ton of them, by the way, on my channel that I used to do more on TikTok. But yes, I'll try and come on here regularly. But basically, it was a beautiful 2-story home, but the kids had gone. And it was just kind of echoey. And then he had his new job, which took him to the other side of the city, which meant it could take him over an hour sometimes to get home. So I'm sitting there in this home, in this community, all by myself, and I was in tears. It's like, what are we gonna do? Anyway, thankfully, my friend had pushed me, and then I pushed myself. Okay, enough of this. No more BS. I deserve a life that is not full of BS, and so does my husband. And so it led to us slowly over the next couple of months thinking about what if we downsized. Guys, we didn't downsize. Well, we did, but anyway, it's a home we really, really loved. But it took us several months to slowly ease into that. Slowly upgraded it, and then thankfully, I'm here in the Ottawa area, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Let me know where you are, by the way, where I'm finding you. I always love to know where I'm catching people. Thankfully, it was before the boom. It was well before the pandemic, which made everything shut down, obviously, for everybody. And it was well before the big real estate boom. And so somewhere in there, we found the house that was more, the kids could come home. My auntie's in Canada. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I'm sure she's glad that you're here and that you remember that she's here in Canada. And so anyway, the home was more manageable. It ended up being bigger than what we had, but it's now a bungalow. And it's got a ramp for when we get old. And it's closer to the kids, and they were able to come home for a while. And it takes my husband literally 11 minutes to come home. And I love the neighbor. Like, it was just like, but had I not really pushed myself and to say, I don't care what happens here, I'm going to say my piece, life would be very, very different. And I'm talking about, so that's just me talking about that little incident, but magnify this into bigger things. Here's another really good story. When we were pregnant with our first child, when I was pregnant with my first child, my in-laws, I love them. They're lovely people. They were quite a bit older. They were later in having their children. I knew no matter what I did, they were kind of come knocking on our door for the delivery or be there. I want to be around. I just knew. So I'm at the doctor. We're at the doctor's office. We're in the final month, and my doctor says, "So how are things going?" I said, "Good." And he says, "Well, are you ready for this baby?" And I said, "Oh, I would be. Well, I kind of am, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have company." And he looked at me and he says, "Do you want company?" And I said, well, no, but there's no way of keeping his parents away. And they looked at me, South African, beautiful, beautiful man. He looked at me and he says, so make it so. Looked at my husband, he looked at me. We said, he says, if you don't want them to come, I'll let them know not to come. I said, well, I didn't know I had a choice. He goes, well, you're having a baby. Of course you have a choice. You always have a choice. Yep, that's what we did. Nobody came to visit for at least a month after we had this little guy. And so, yeah, I didn't know. So what I'm saying is speak your mind. I cannot tell you how critical that is. And in the other side of speaking your mind is you have to be open-minded to what your partner gives you. That brings me to the next part that I think is the toughest part for relationships, I believe, is receiving. Receiving the words, I love you, without feeling like you got to say it back right away. It's like somebody tells you, I love you, and you're like, oh, I love you too. No, I love you. He loves me. He really loves me. Whoa, that's a big freaking deal. Receiving is tough. It's like people will give you a compliment. Do you ever know these kind of people where you say, oh my goodness, I love, hey, you look great today. And they'll say, oh, this whole thing. Oh, I got lucky. Like we push away compliments. What is so wrong with receiving a compliment from the partner who loves you, who says, hey, you look great today, instead of saying, you're supposed to say that? Well, no. Maybe they say things they're supposed to say, maybe they don't. But if you're like me, I only give genuine compliments. Receiving. Receiving with a pause and with a thank you. Thank you. Yes, I worked on my appearance today. Well, I didn't, but you know what I mean. It's like receiving. Thank you. Christmas, everybody got all these presents, and to actually just receive it and love it and relish that this person went through a lot of trouble spending their hard-earned money to pick me a really, really good gift. Receiving. Let me know if any of this has been helpful to you. Let me know if you have any topics. Comment on any of my, I have my notifications on. I don't want to miss anything that people are telling me. So if you even have a topic you would like me to discuss on the live, and if you're not going to be able to be here, the good thing is TikTok, YouTube records them and it's posted right there. And I don't edit any of my lives because that's kind of the point of going live. And so if you have any topics you would like me to discuss, whether it's for me to create a video on or to talk about live where you can ask questions back and forth, I am here for that. If you have not subscribed, it's a freaking great time to do that. And I will see you in my next video. Take care.